Hey, what's up, everybody? I just finished watching Satan's Slaves 2 Communion. It's available on Shudder. If you haven't seen the first Satan's Slaves, you should see it. If you saw my little video review from 31 and 31, I really liked it. I highly recommend that you see that movie. You don't necessarily need to see the movie before seeing this one, but I would definitely say that you should. In my personal opinion, because the difference between these two movies is that the first one is technically a remake. Well, not technically, it is a remake. And this one is an original story to continue what has spawned from the remake. So you can watch the first one, and again, it's a really good movie. It's also available on Shudder. Like, do yourself a favor, watch it. This one is also available on Shudder. It's definitely worth the watch. It came out on the 4th, so about a week ago it came out. And I was really excited when I found out that there was going to be a sequel for this movie. And then I found out that it was coming pretty soon after I saw the original. And it came out in August in Indonesia, and it was the first Indonesian film to be filmed in IMAX. And technically speaking, this movie is just absolutely amazing. It's a lot better than the first one at creating tension and the scares. Again, the jump scares really aren't a huge, deterrence from the movie. I was looking at a couple reviews after I was kind of done with the film, and mostly user reviews, because there isn't a whole lot of review reviews. There's some that are out there, but in terms of user reviews, one guy's like, "Oh, it's all just set up for jump scares." No, that's not my opinion on it either. It's just it honestly, it definitely is different. It's not the gothic horror that the first one was. This is definitely more horror. And definitely, I think, is crafted more in that way. It's meant to create unease. It's meant to be unsettling. Seriously, does not give a fuck about who it kills off, And one of the things that I definitely think when it comes to these types of films, horror films in general, when it comes to kids, they stay away. It's rare that you're going to see a movie where it does off a kid. And that it, like I say, you may see kids get killed off screen. And there's one here that it may be a little off screen, but it's goddamn horrible. What happens at the end of it. I'm so surprised with this movie that, sequels never live up really always to the hype. You have a very limited amount of sequels that are actually either as good or better than the original. I'm definitely in the corner of as good as the original. As much as I like the original, I really like this one too. I don't think that it's better, and I think where it definitely is not better is in the story. I think the first one's story is a lot better than this one is. This one is just a teeny bit disjointed, and the way that it's set up, it's definitely set up for a sequel, right? This has kind of middle film syndrome. Right, so it does a lot to get you into what it's trying to do, and it's more like a mystery of what exactly is going on here. And it does its explanation right at the end, within the last 15 minutes of the movie. All of a sudden, it starts asking a couple of questions. It answers a couple of questions, but it leaves everything so open-ended that there's definitely going to be another one. And I think even the director has said that there is going to be another film in this franchise. So what exactly is this one about? Well, we meet up with the family from the first film, where, we have Body, Rini, I always forget the other brother's name, and the father. They're now living in this apartment complex, big high-rise type of thing, but it's the only building out in the middle of nowhere. And they start, again, seeing weird things that are happening around. There's a lot to do with the cult. We actually open the film with the guy that writes the weird paper. He's a journalist, is what you find out in this one. And he's a real journalist, and he's created this tabloid type of thing where it seems like it's a hoax, but it's meant to be written in the way that there is going to be somebody out there believes it, so that people actually know that this cult exists, right? The cult from the first movie. And then it goes right into the family and them doing that. And then just basically over the course of one night, things get weird, and that's just kind of where everything goes from there. And like I said, it does a really good job at introducing some new characters to the film, and to the series. and some characters we're definitely going to see again. And then it really goes kind of hog wild with the scare factor of the movie. And it's not, I don't call them cheap scares. I don't believe that anything in this movie is cheap. I think that everything is well plotted out, and how they're getting to deaths of characters, how they're getting to, the story bits that they're trying to hit. It's just that it is just a little disjointed, just so slightly, that, getting to the point of, one, getting us back into the whole thing with the family and the brother, the one that is now missing from the equation. And I'm joined by my other co-host, Ace over here, who decided to come and sleep, lay next to me on the couch. But the big things that I want to say about this film is that tension is very good, and there were so many times that I was just like, "Oh my God, no! Oh no, don't let that happen! Oh God, no! Please don't! No! Okay, don't kill this character off! Please don't kill this character off!" And there's actually a character that the character itself is kind of minor, but I like the character so much, and with the older brother, I like the possible relationship that may have formed from it, because she's quite a bit older than he is. And then, I just didn't want to see that character die, and I knew it was going to happen. Minor spoilers with this thing, I guess. I'm trying not to spoil a bunch of stuff, because I want to talk about a bunch of different things in it, and maybe even I will just give a review, and then I'm going to do a spoiler section after it. I think that's what's going to happen. So just wait for spoilers if you really want spoilers for this movie. But I just felt so connected to the characters. I like the family still. They're all good. They're all grown up. It takes place 3 years after the first film. Everybody's grown. The performances are better. It's the original cast from the first film. They really don't try to bring in anything, anybody new in terms of cast members, or replace any cast members. It's just, like I said, it's really well done. I just am so enamored with the way that they did the film, and how it's so much stronger in certain areas, and then it is a little weaker in other areas. Reina has come and joined the fray, but overall, I think this is a solid 4 out of 5 satanic cults. I definitely think that if you saw the first one and you liked it, then you're going to really like this one too. I think that it's a pretty solid watch. The creepiness factor is definitely dialed up on this one. There is some gore in it, and some things are very surprising, but it's not to the extent that I thought it might be, and especially since the first one wasn't super gory either, though it did have the one scene with a guy getting run over. That was pretty bad. But there are a couple of things. There's definitely one death of a character that I even cringed at for just a second. Like I said, I think this is definitely worth a watch, and definitely worth your time when you go into it. So if that's all you're watching, you can skip to the end of the video, and you can see hear the plugs, see the plugs. But I will definitely say now that we are heading right into spoiler territory for this film. So, are you still here? Still watching, Reina? Okay, are you ready for spoilers? Ace, ready for spoilers? Okay, I've given enough time. So this is complete spoilers. So the things that really surprised me about the film, like I said, not afraid to kill kids. And the worst one on this, and I know it's bad, whether or not flagged or whatever for me saying that type of thing, but it really isn't. The probably the most shocking scene in the movie takes place somewhere, I think, in the second act. This movie's about 2 hours long. It could be a little bit shorter, but I think that because I didn't really feel the length of the film, I think it's totally worth it. But you basically, there's an elevator in this building, single elevator, and it's going up, and there's a lady at the bottom that drops her sash or purse type thing, and drops a bunch of coins all over the ground. And this definitely is a building where people are living, below means. They're barely surviving. And so when she drops all the coins, there are 4 girls that are playing hopscotch, and they all go, and once the elevator has gone up and the door opens again, they go to collect all the coins. And immediately in my head, I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen here? I hope what's going to happen is not what's going to happen. And so they go up, And one of the other main characters, the new character, is Winsu and his mom, who she's also deaf, and he knows sign language. They're in the elevator, with their father, the family's father, and it's going up, and it has to come down eventually because it's like, oh, why are we still going up? Well, it has to go up to get rid of the people that are going to the other floors, the 14th floor, and then it'll start coming down. And she's like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, the thing stops. And it starts slowly scooching down the elevator shaft. And I was like, oh no. Okay, girls, you're going to have to get the fuck out of there, aren't you? And so, Winsu manages to get off. He's crying to get his mom. The other people are fighting to get out of the elevator before it possibly drops once again. People are scratching and like tearing, and blood is like flying on people's faces because they're fighting each other to get out of the elevator on time. And unfortunately, everybody, and this includes, like I said, the family's father, is in there as well. And the elevator falls. And right before the elevator falls, another character, I think his name is Ari, his sister is with the three other girls that are down there. She hears it and she's like, everybody get out, get out. And she gets out, and then she turns around. She's yelling at them as they're still collecting the coins. And she's like, get out, get out, get out. And then the elevator completely crushes these girls. And you don't see them get crushed, but the shot is directly on the girl's face, right? As she's yelling, and then all of a sudden just buckets of blood completely cover her face, where all you can see is the eyes and everything's covered. It's the girl's blood that just got crushed by the elevator. And I was like, holy shit, this movie is not fucking afraid to kill some kids, right? And then, there's a couple other scenes. There's a punk teenager that's there, and he gets stabbed through the neck when he gets scared by the demonic ghost that, inhabited the body of their mother, that now is the one that's helping the son who shows up back again. I believe his name is Ian. Like, he has the most normal name out of everybody in this movie. He's back, and she's still kind of ruling the whole thing. I think the cult actually worships her, and that's what you kind of see in the beginning of the movie, because when the journalist guy, he goes into this place, he has his friend that's like a policeman or a commander or something like that, and he shows him the bodies that are all lined up in prayer to her image, but they're all corpses, right? And they're all wrapped in a specific thing. So it's like the undead have come to do that. And he's like, oh, look, it's getting covered up, but that's why you need to create this fake newspaper, that seems like it's fake, but you're really telling the truth of what's going on here. And that's the same paper that was used in the first one. And it continues on, and that guy is shown once again in this one. And so it's just it's them figuring out more about the cult, but not really, and finding out that actually the cult owns this building or has lived in this building for a long time. And then when they're searching the hallways, it's completely empty, and they're just like, why is this so empty? And then you find out it's because they're all doing this ritual, to continue on what they were supposed to do in the first film. The first film was really about getting the boy, right, and then transferring him over because he's the son of Satan. And I think this is to complete a ritual to help end the world or some shit like that. They don't really, that's the part where I'm like, they don't really explain the whole thing. And I was reading this other thing towards the end of it, because I'm kind of like, okay, I kind of get it, but I just like to have a synopsis again before I start recording these things. And then they start talking about these things that they're using, and I was like, that wasn't even explained. What the fuck is the Pear of Oblivion or some shit like that? There's actually, I think there's the Leaves of Oblivion, because the whole thing is that, Rinny, she can go to college, but she has to leave everybody, and then she finally decides that, hey, that's exactly what I'm going to do, and that's when shit starts going down. And he tries to get her to join the cult by eating this leaf, right? And then, transporting her basically, and now she's a part of the cult, but she rejects it at the end of the movie. And that's where you get the second most brutal death in this movie, which happens to be their father. And their father, you find out, is so even though he got a job in the first movie, And they kind of explain this because they're like, well, we don't even know what my father does. And at one point they see him constantly putting up like a briefcase. He brings home a briefcase and he locks it away. And so eventually they get the briefcase, they open it up, and there's a ton of fingers in there. And what you find out is the reason that he's keeping these fingers is because he was trying to make a deal with the cult to say, hey, I want to break this contract that I made with my wife, because he was a cop that found out about the cult, and that's how they got his mom, like their mom, involved, and how they got her to be fertile, right, was from this whole breeding cult. And so when they see all the fingers, the reason he's doing it is because as a cop, he's able to get into certain places and he's able to kill people. And they asked him to kill thousands of people. And suppose he's already killed like 2,000 people or 1,000 or something like that. And the fingers are all the people he killed as proof that he's killed these people, right? Kills them, takes a finger. Reminds me of another character, like a mobster that did that. I'm trying to remember what movie that is, but that was like his calling card, that he would always take somebody's finger to keep it there. Or it's like the clown from Dead by Daylight, every once in a while you need a pinky. And so it's just a lot of that stuff gets explained like right at the end of the movie. And it's like, okay, so the ritual's happening and then all the people living. And we kind of know from the last movie, because the very end of the movie are these two characters that show up and they're living like next door. And one of them is being completely nice to Rinny, the main girl of the movie. And like, you don't know why. And you don't know if they're on like her side or they're on the cult side. And they do show up at the very end of this movie as kind of like an epilogue type thing after they, everybody but the dad escapes. Because like I said, the dad's death is really brutal. They basically, draw and quarter him, right? They get a bunch of horses, and it's kind of funny at the same time. It's disturbing because the little boy that's, the spawn of Satan, he's like, oh, yay, my horses are here. My horses. And I was like, what the fuck? And then you see these horses and they're like horses of the apocalypse, and they got like weird things on top of them. And then they totally draw and quarter the dad. They rip all of his arms off and kill him off. And it's like, okay, he's a little too excited about killing old Pop. But it's like there's so many cool things, and there's Tari's death, and Tari is the one that is like a call girl or some sort. That's what you're meant to believe. I don't know exactly that's what she was, but she, that's where the older brother kind of has like an infatuation with her and like fixes a radio for her and tries to like talk to her more, even though he's trying to protect her from this other guy that's an asshole that dies a good death as well. And she was a character that I felt like she could be redeemed in some way, shape, or form. And then they kill her off. But honestly, the sequence is kind of creepy, kind of cool, because, there's a scene with the other kid that has the deaf mom that they've created their own like sign language thing, which you find out also that mother knew about the son of Satan in there, which was a part of their language of, everybody in this building is somehow related to the cult in one way, shape, or another. And I guess maybe the father was a part of the cult because the father died, and then they had made their own sign language between the mom and him, so that way that they could communicate without the father actually knowing. And the son was written in the book. And the cultists know that sign language as well. So it's kind of like, well, it wasn't really, created between the two of them. She just knew the sign language of, or the language of the cultists, and then was teaching her son how to do it. So, but anywho, so they're all like, she's being chased around by the other thing. Another guy dies with his head being like turned backwards. He's all contorted. Looks really fucking cool. And everything in there is pretty much practical effects. And then, so she decides to hide in the garbage chute that he almost got trapped in earlier. The little kid almost got trapped in earlier. Where I was like, no, don't kill him that way. Get out of there. Like, I'm rooting for these characters. And when I'm doing that, I know I like this movie. And so she goes in there. I'm like, no, don't go in there. You know what's going to happen to you. And so I'm like, oh, great. She's going to fall to hell. And then, yeah, it does turn like red inside of the little garbage chute that's there. And she looks up, and there's one of the corpses that's been wrapped, his head or her head is poking out of the thing. And as she's looking up, she's fallen a little bit. Then all of a sudden, the corpse opens their mouth, and then a baby starts coming out of the mouth, and she freaks the fuck out. And that's when she falls down the chute and, like, you know, scorpions herself to death inside the chute. It's cool. It's great. I just really wish that character hadn't died. I wish he would have been one that survived. I wish one of, I think, Body's friends would have been, it's like the second youngest brother. I wish that he had died instead of her, to be honest with you. I just really like the character. And even though the character, you know, some people might be like, it's not really a great character. I don't know why. I just liked her. I thought that it was cool that, you know, the oldest brother, you know, was kind of maybe getting into a relationship, you know, and it was kind of like one of those things where she wasn't really sure about it. Like, is he really being nice, or is he, you know, trying to just get me because I'm a call girl again? And it wasn't really that. It was really because he's just nice and kind of innocent. So I did read that some people's like, oh, well, they totally threw away some of the lore from the first movie. They didn't really. They just, I think, tried to expand on some of the stuff. And maybe it seems a little weird, but the idea is that the cult isn't just after one person. They go after multiple people, and maybe they need to have a mass ritual, which I think is this, like a mass ritual killing, that will allow them to do more stuff. And you find out that, like, Ian has been living in the apartment complex in the one room, because there used to be 15 floors and now there's only 14, and the 15th floor happens to be the cultist floor. So, you know, you go to the first floor and it's like, you know, this is the cat floor, so that if it floods, you know, we hate cats and we'll get rid of them. And the second floor is like the baby dinosaur floor. The third floor is for stuffed animals. The fourth floor, you know, is there for, you know, the pound puppies that they're getting there, all the way up into the cultist floor. So it just gets progressively worse as you go up, is what I'm saying. And maybe it's like different layers of hell or something like that, you know, that you're going through. So I definitely think in terms of the story, the scares are good. They are very good. And there are some jump scares that go into this. And maybe sometimes you could feel like it's a little overdone with some of the things that happen in there. But they're good. They're good scares. And it's well acted. It's definitely beautifully fucking shot. I think I cannot recommend this movie enough. Like, you guys really need to see it. I think because of the story is why it loses that 1 point to me. But overall, it's still just a very fun movie. And it's definitely, the first one was more of a slow burn. And that's where I say this one isn't that slow burn. This one is definitely a little more in your face in terms of the horror and the scares. Where the first one, it built. And then it got to the horror part of everything. So, yep. That is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched this little video review, I am now looking forward to see if there is a third one, because I'd like to get a little more backstory and see if you can clean that stuff up. But in general, I think this is, if it goes to a 3, I think it's going to be a pretty good trilogy. And hopefully they don't do some weird, you know, like when Japanese filmmakers, they get into the first one and it's good and interesting. They get to the second one and they do it right. And then the third one just falls apart. I really hope the third one of these just doesn't fall apart. So make sure, if you haven't checked it out, there is a brand new podcast on Barbarian, which another movie that I really liked and I think is definitely worth your time. If you have HBO Max right now, you should make sure that you watch it. Just don't let anybody tell you anything about the movie. And then, you know, follow on the socials if you want to follow. If you like the video, like and subscribe. And leave your comments below if you've seen either one of these movies. I'd like to see what other people's interpretations of this are. If you didn't like it, let me know why you didn't. If you did really like it, let me know why you liked it so much. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. You got anything else to say, Ace? Nope. Fell asleep. All right, take care of yourselves and each other.